Ever wonder why some days you're crushing it and others, yeah, not so much?
Like, what is it about those wins and losses that really make a difference?
I think we all have. It's like, what makes us pick when it comes to achievement? Why we even try in the first place.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of attribution theory comes in. It's all about how we explain our successes and failures, especially in learning.
And how those explanations then drive our motivation, right?
Mhm.
So we're not just talking about what happened, but the stories we tell ourselves about why it happened.
Spot on. And those stories have a huge impact on our emotions, what we expect to happen in the future, even how we behave. It's powerful stuff.
So for this deep dive, we're going way back, digging into some classic research on attribution theory in education from the Journal of Educational Psychology. Think late 70s, early 80s.
A golden age for this kind of research, really. But don't let the dates fool you. These ideas are still totally relevant, maybe even more so today.
Because we're always trying to figure out how to learn better, how to motivate ourselves and others, and this theory gives us a really solid framework to understand all of that.
Right. And the research we're looking at really zooms in on the classroom, which is where so much of this plays out, especially in those formative years.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly is attribution theory in this context?
Well, it's basically how we answer those why questions about our performance, like, why did I ace that test? Or why did I totally bomb that presentation?
Those questions we ask ourselves all the time, right? And it's not just about big events. It's those everyday successes and setbacks, too.
Right. And the answers we come up with, the reasons we give, those are our causal attributions. And the theory, particularly the work of Bernard Wiener, suggests that these explanations aren't just random thoughts, they're key drivers of our motivation.
So it's not just, I did well because the test was easy.
Yeah.
It's more nuanced than that.
Yeah. Way more nuanced. The theory looks at different categories of causes and how we perceive them. We often focus on our ability, like, am I good at this? Or do I have the natural talent?
That innate ability thing, right? We're always trying to figure out if we've got the right stuff.
Exactly. Then there's effort. How much did we put in? Did we really apply ourselves? And that's often tied to controllability.
Because effort is something we feel like we have a say in. If we didn't try hard enough, well, that's on us.
And we can change it next time. It's unstable in that way. But then the theory goes even deeper. There's the difficulty of the task itself, which can be external. Like, was that test just insanely hard no matter how smart you are?
Oh, I've definitely used that one.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, no one could have aced that thing.
Right. And then there are things like your personality, your mood on a given day, pure luck, even help or obstacles from other people.
So many factors. But you're saying even with all these possibilities, some explanations tend to dominate.
Yeah, ability and effort really take center stage,
Yeah.
especially in achievement situations.
And I guess that makes sense because those are often internal, right? It's about us, not just some random external factor.
Exactly. And Wiener and others identified three key dimensions that we use to categorize these causes: locus, stability, and controllability. These are like the filters we use to make sense of why things happen.
Okay, break those down for me.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm trying to learn a new language and I'm just not getting it.
Perfect example. So locus is about where we place the cause. Is it internal, something about you? Or external, something outside of you? So with the language, you might think, I'm just bad at languages. That's internal.
Ouch. Yeah, I've felt that one. Makes you feel kind of stuck, like it's just a part of who you are.
Right. But you could also say, this teaching method is terrible. That's external.
Blaming the textbook. Classic. Okay, what about stability?
Stability is whether the cause is likely to change or stay the same over time. So I'm bad at languages. That feels pretty stable, right? Like it's not going to magically shift overnight.
Oof, yeah. But maybe you could say, I haven't been putting in enough time. That feels more unstable, like you could change your study habits.
Precisely. Effort is often unstable. You can always decide to try harder next time.
And finally, controllability. That one seems pretty straightforward.
It is basically, do you believe you have influence over the cause? Effort is very controllable. You decide how much effort to put in. But something like inherent talent, that often feels uncontrollable.
Like you're either born with it or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these three dimensions, but why are they so important?
Because, and this is key, these seemingly small distinctions in how we categorize causes have a massive impact on our motivation and behavior.
So it's not just about what happened, but how we frame it in our minds.
Exactly. Each dimension links to specific emotions, expectations, and even how we approach learning and achievement in the future. It's like a chain reaction.
This is making me think about all those times I've given up on something because I thought I just wasn't cut out for it.
And that's where understanding these attributions can be so powerful. It gives us a framework to challenge those beliefs and maybe rewrite the script.
Okay, so we've got the framework. We explain our successes and failures, and how we explain them, those attributions, fall into these key categories. But what actually leads us to make these specific explanations in the first place? What shapes those attributions?
Well, there are a bunch of factors, but one of the most fascinating, especially in the classroom, is the role of feedback, particularly from teachers.
Oh, yeah. Think about it. A teacher's words, even their tone of voice, can really stick with you.
Totally. And sometimes it's super direct, like you did well because you clearly worked hard, but often it's the more subtle, indirect cues that are super influential.
Like what? Spill the tea.
Well, one area the research looked at is pity versus anger. Imagine a student fails a test. Now, if the teacher reacts with pity,
Oh, that's got to be rough. Like they think you're just a lost cause.
it can feel that way, and the student might internalize that and think, maybe they're right, maybe I'm just not good at this.
Like they've been labeled as low ability without even saying it.
Right. But if the teacher expresses anger, the message is different.
You could have done better if you'd actually tried.
More like, this is a lack of effort, not a lack of ability. And there's research to back this up. Studies in the 80s actually showed how these different reactions lead students to make different attributions for their failures.
Ah, that's fascinating. And you don't even need direct words. It could be a sigh, a certain look, even just lower expectations from that point on.
Absolutely. Those subtle cues can speak volumes. And on the flip side, there's praise and blame, which can be counterintuitive.
So praise is bad now. What's going on here?
Not exactly bad, but it's complicated. Imagine a kid solves a really easy math problem and the teacher goes overboard with praise.
Wow, you're a genius. You cracked the code.
Right. And the kid might be thinking, wait, this was supposed to be easy. Why are they acting like I just cured cancer?
So the praise actually backfires.
It can, especially for older kids and adults, because we often make this unconscious link between effort and ability.
Like if you had to try really hard for something easy, you must not be that smart.
Exactly. And there's research from the 70s and 80s that shows this. Kids who saw others praised for easy tasks or not blamed for getting them wrong actually rated those kids as lower in ability.
Mind blown. So sometimes a little bit of constructive criticism might actually be more motivating.
It can be because it implies a belief in their potential, that they're capable of more.
Okay, now this one is really going to make me rethink things. Offering help. You're telling me that helping someone can actually undermine their motivation.
It can, depending on how it's done. Think about it. Why do we usually offer help?
Because someone's struggling. Seems obvious.
But dig a little deeper. We're more likely to offer help when we believe someone's difficulty is due to something they can't control.
Like a lack of ability. Oh, honey, you're just not a math person. Let me do that for you.
And the person receiving that help might internalize that message, even if it's not explicitly said. Studies in the 90s showed this. Students who were given unsolicited help were perceived as having lower ability.
This is giving me serious anxiety about how I offer help. So what's the right way to do it?
The key is to distinguish between instrumental help and gratuitous help. Instrumental help is more about guidance, scaffolding, asking questions that help them figure it out themselves.
So instead of giving the answer, you're giving them the tools to find it themselves.
Exactly. Gratuitous help is just doing it for them, which sends the message that they're not capable.
Okay, note to self. Offer instrumental help, not the gratuitous kind. This is all about fostering autonomy, isn't it?
It is, and that ties in nicely with another key concept from the research: task versus ego involvement.
So this is about the mindset we bring to learning, right?
Yeah.
Like, are we focused on the task itself or how we look compared to others?
You got it. In task-involving situations, it's all about mastering the material, the learning process itself. Effort is seen as a positive, essential for improvement.
You're there to learn, to grow, to challenge yourself.
Exactly. But in ego-involving contexts, the focus is on proving your ability, outperforming others, or hiding any perceived weakness.
It becomes more about performance than learning. Like you're constantly measuring yourself against everyone else.
Right. And research from the 80s showed that in task-involved situations, high effort is seen as a sign of high ability. But in ego-involved situations, high effort can actually be a sign of low ability.
Because if you have to try that hard, you must not be as naturally gifted as everyone else. Ouch.
Yeah, it's a totally different interpretation of effort. And even small things in the environment can influence this, like Is it presented as a game or a test? Is the focus on collaboration or competition?
So the context really matters. Teachers and parents, take note. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about this idea of attributional style.
Yes. This is about our general tendency to explain events in a certain way. Are we typically optimistic, seeing setbacks as temporary? Or are we more pessimistic, assuming the worst?
So like those glass half full, glass half empty people.
Kinda, but more nuanced. A pessimistic style tends to attribute negative events to internal, stable, and global causes.
So it's my fault, it's always going to be like this, and it affects everything I do. Yikes, that sounds rough.
It can be. Whereas an optimistic style sees negative events as external, unstable, and specific.
It was just bad luck, it's not a big deal, and it won't happen again.
Yeah.
Much more hopeful. But how do researchers actually measure this?
Well, there are a few ways. They might give people hypothetical situations, like failing a test or getting a promotion, and ask them to explain why they think it happened. Then they rate those explanations on the dimensions we talked about earlier: locus, stability, and globality.
So like, do you think you failed because you're not smart enough or because you just didn't study hard enough? And then do you think that reason is something that's always true about you or something that could change?
Exactly. And they also look at globality. How much does this reason apply to other areas of your life? They even analyze real-life stuff like diaries and speeches. And research suggests this attributional style can have some serious real-world consequences.
I'm sensing a but coming.
There is a but. It's not like your attributional style is set in stone.
So you're not doomed to be a pessimist forever.
Thank goodness no. Research has shown that while it's a meaningful individual difference, it's not the only factor.
So what else is at play?
Well, strong situational factors can override our usual style. Like, imagine you get super clear, specific feedback that's totally unrelated to your usual explanations. That can shift things.
Okay, so it's not just our personality. The context really matters.
Big time. And even within ourselves, we probably don't explain every single event with the exact same lens.
So to sum up, how we explain our successes and failures is a combo of both individual tendencies and the specific situations we're in.
And those explanations, those attributions, aren't just thoughts floating around in our heads. They have consequences.
Okay, let's talk about consequences. This feels like where the rubber meets the road, how our attributions actually impact our motivation and behavior.
Exactly. And one of the most important areas where this plays out is our emotional life, particularly in the classroom.
I love that you said emotional life because we often talk about learning and motivation like they're purely cognitive processes.
Right, but emotions are a huge part of it. And attribution theory acknowledges that. Back in the 70s, Wiener and his colleagues proposed this fascinating model of how our emotional reactions unfold.
Tell me more.
Okay, so first, we have these immediate knee-jerk reactions based solely on whether we succeeded or failed. Happiness if we did well, sadness or disappointment if we didn't.
Makes sense. Pure outcome-based emotions.
Right. But then, as we start digging into the why, that's when the real magic happens. We start experiencing attribution-dependent emotions. So if I think I aced a test because I'm a genius.
Ride City. Time to strut.
Exactly. But if I think I failed because I didn't study, I might feel guilty or ashamed.
And those emotions then drive our future actions, right?
Absolutely. Pride can make you more likely to approach similar challenges. Shame might make you want to avoid them altogether. Guilt can motivate you to try harder next time.
So my emotions are giving me valuable data about my attributions and how to move forward. Okay, I'm digging this. What about the different causal dimensions? How do those tie in with emotions?
Oh, each dimension has its own set of emotional consequences. Locus, for example, is closely linked to self-esteem. If you constantly attribute your successes to external factors, you might not feel as proud or competent.
Because you're not really owning those achievements. It's like, yeah, but anyone could have done that.
Right. And on the flip side, if you always blame yourself for failures, that can be a real blow to your self-worth.
It's that internal critic that can be so hard to silence sometimes. And then there's stability, right? That's all about our expectations.
Spot on. If you believe the causes of your failures are stable and unchanging.
I'll never be good at math, no matter how hard I try, kind of thinking.
That's the one. It can lead to feelings of hopelessness, apathy, even despair, which are hallmarks of learned helplessness. And that can be really debilitating.
So understanding that those beliefs might be unfounded, that things can change, is crucial for bouncing back from setbacks.
Absolutely. And then we have controllability, which brings in those super interesting social emotions like guilt, shame, pity, and anger.
Okay, unpack those for me.
Let's say you fail a test. If you believe it's because you didn't study enough, something controllable, you might feel guilty. But if you think you failed because you just lack the ability, something uncontrollable, you might feel ashamed.
And both of those can be really painful, but in different ways.
Right. Guilt is often about the action itself, I should have done better. Shame is often more about your core identity, I'm not good enough. And when we look at others, our attributions about their situation affect our reactions.
So if we think someone's struggling due to factors beyond their control, we're more likely to feel sympathetic and offer help.
Exactly. But if we think they're responsible for their predicament, we might feel angry or even judgmental.
And that can lead us to withhold help or even punish them, which has huge implications for how we treat each other, especially in learning environments.
Huge implications. And research in the 80s really highlighted how these emotions then guide our behavior. Pride makes us want to keep going. Shame makes us want to hide. Guilt can be a powerful motivator for change.
So it's like a feedback loop. Our attributions shape our emotions, and our emotions then shape our motivation and actions. Now, let's talk about how all of this affects what we anticipate happening in the future, that idea of expectancy of success.
Yes, that's a core component of the theory. Our attributions directly influence our expectations for future success. If you bomb a test and think it's because you're just not good at that subject,
You're probably not going to feel super optimistic about the next one.
probably not. Because you've attributed your failure to a stable cause, something you believe won't change. But if you think you failed because you didn't study enough,
Then there's hope. You can change your study habits.
exactly, you've attributed it to an unstable cause, something you can control. And research has shown that stability is a key driver of expectations.
It's like, can I change this? If the answer is yes, even if it's hard, it can make a world of difference.
A world of difference. And this understanding has led to the development of really interesting interventions like attribution retraining.
So you can actually help people change how they explain their successes and failures.
You can. The classic approach is to encourage people to attribute their failures to lack of effort rather than lack ability. Because effort is both unstable and controllable, it gives them a sense of agency.
Like, I can change this, I just need to try harder. That's a powerful shift in mindset.
It is, and research has shown that it can be really effective. Studies going back to the 70s show that you could actually change people's attributions, and that those changes then led to improvements in their motivation and performance.
But there's a but coming, isn't there?
There is. Some researchers have argued that many attribution retraining programs have been a bit too simplistic in their approach.
Like they've oversimplified the theory itself.
A bit. They tend to focus almost exclusively on effort as the adaptive attribution. But the theory is more nuanced than that. Research has shown that simply manipulating the perceived stability of a cause, regardless of what that cause is, can have positive effects.
So it's not just about saying try harder, it's about helping people see that the reasons for their failures might be more changeable than they think.
Exactly. And many programs haven't really tapped into the power of emotions, even though the theory emphasizes how crucial they are.
We need to acknowledge those feelings and help people understand how they're connected to their attributions.
Absolutely. And there's also been this tendency to focus solely on failure, but we can have maladaptive attributions for our successes too.
Oh, I only aced that test because it was easy, kind of thinking.
Exactly. That can also undermine motivation in the long run. Now, another really important piece of this puzzle is help-seeking behavior. Why do students who are struggling sometimes avoid asking for help?
It's like the harder you're struggling, the less likely you are to raise your hand. What's going on there?
Well, research in the 80s looked at this through the lens of attributions. They talked about help-relevant versus help-irrelevant attributional patterns.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Students with help-relevant attributions believe their difficulties are due to controllable factors, like lack of effort. They're more likely to see help-seeking as useful.
Because they think they can actually do something about it.
Exactly, but students with help-irrelevant patterns attribute their struggles to external factors or uncontrollable things, like a lack of ability.
So for them, asking for help is like admitting defeat.
In a way.
Hmm.
And research has supported this. Students who believe their struggles are due to changeable factors are more likely to actually seek help.
But it's not just about the individual student, is it? The environment they're in also plays a huge role.
You said it. In competitive environments where it's all about proving you're smarter than everyone else, asking for help can feel like a weakness.
Whereas in a more collaborative setting, where the focus is on learning and growth, help-seeking is normalized.
Precisely. So the context really interacts with those individual attributions. Now, so far we've been talking about how we explain our own experiences, but attribution theory also looks at how we explain other people's behavior, which is a whole other layer of complexity.
Okay, this is getting into the social psychology of it all. How do our judgments about others shape how we treat them?
Big time. It's all about those causal inferences we make about why people do the things they do, and particularly whether we think they're responsible for their outcomes.
So is someone's success due to hard work or dumb luck? Did they fail because they're lazy or because they faced unfair obstacles?
Those are the kinds of judgments we make all the time, and they influence everything from how we evaluate people to whether we offer them help.
Think about teachers grading students. They're more likely to reward those they see as effortful and punish those they perceive as slacking off.
Exactly. And there's even this double-edged sword of effort that researchers have talked about. Some students might actually downplay how hard they work to avoid seeming less intelligent, which then makes them look unmotivated.
It's like a catch-22. You don't want to seem like you're struggling, but you also don't want to seem like you don't care.
Right. And when it comes to offering help, the same principle applies. We're more willing to help those whose difficulties we believe are uncontrollable.
Like someone who needs help because of a sudden illness versus someone who's struggling because they made poor choices.
Precisely. And this isn't just theoretical. Research in classrooms has shown that teachers are more likely to offer assistance to students whose struggles they attribute to things beyond their control. And those decisions are often driven by our emotions, sympathy versus anger, for example.
It's like that old saying, we judge ourselves by our intentions and others by their actions. We're trying to figure out, are they in control of this or is this something that happened to them?
Exactly. And those judgments have a profound impact on our social interactions.
Now, the research we're looking at also specifically addressed causal attributions and motivation among African Americans. What unique insights did it offer in that context?
Well, researchers in the 80s argued that attribution theory could be a really valuable tool for understanding some of the motivational challenges faced by African American students.
Like what?
Things like lower academic expectations, feelings of helplessness, attributing outcomes to external factors. And a lot of the research in this area involved comparing the attributions made by Black and white students.
So are there fundamental differences in how different groups explain their successes and failures?
That was the big question, and early on, some studies suggested there might be. But those early findings were often based on pretty flawed assumptions and methodologies.
Like the idea that Black students might value effort less, which has since been debunked.
Right. And thankfully, more recent research has challenged those early findings. Many studies have shown no significant differences in attributions between racial groups.
So we can't make sweeping generalizations based on race or any other demographic category. Everyone's different.
Absolutely. And even more importantly, some researchers have critiqued the tendency in this literature to focus solely on the content of attributions.
Like what specific reasons are they giving?
Exactly. But they argue that we need to pay more attention to the processes involved, the thinking, the feeling, the acting. How are those processes influenced by factors like systemic racism, cultural differences, and how achievement is valued, and so on?
So it's not just about categorizing people's explanations, but understanding the context that shapes those explanations. That's a much more nuanced approach.
It is, and it leads to more interesting questions, like how does a history of being underestimated or stereotyped affect the kind of feedback Black students receive, even from well-intentioned teachers?
And how does that feedback then influence their self-perceptions and motivation? There are so many layers to unpack.
So many layers, and attribution theory gives us a framework for doing that unpacking.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but we'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that attribution theory has faced its share of criticisms over the years. What are some of those?
Well, one common criticism is that it's basically just common sense dressed up in fancy academic language.
Like, duh, we already know that people explain things differently.
Exactly. But proponents of the theory would argue that it's about taking those common sense observations and turning them into a testable, systematic framework. It allows us to make predictions, design interventions, and understand the connections between different psychological phenomena.
So it's about going beyond those intuitive understandings and building a more rigorous model. What about criticisms of the research methods used in attribution theory?
Yeah, there have been some concerns about the heavy reliance on those hypothetical scenarios in lab settings.
Like, imagine you failed a test. What would you say was the reason?
Exactly. Critics argue that it doesn't always reflect how people actually behave in real life, and they call for more research in real-world settings.
More field work, less lab work.
Essentially. And there have also been calls for stronger evidence linking attributions to actual achievement outcomes. But proponents of the theory point out that it's super hard to isolate the impact of any single motivational variable on complex, long-term outcomes like grades or career success.
There are so many factors at play.
So many. Now, another big question is about the cultural universality of attribution theory.
Is this just a Western way of thinking about achievement?
That's a valid question. Some researchers have argued that the emphasis on individual ability and effort and the specific dimensions used to categorize causes might not apply equally across cultures.
Like in more collectivist cultures, the focus might be more on group harmony and success rather than individual achievement.
Exactly. And there might be other dimensions that are more relevant in those contexts. So more cross-cultural research is definitely needed. But even with these criticisms, attribution theory has made a huge contribution to our understanding of motivation in education.
It's given us a language for talking about these processes, for understanding how our explanations shape our experiences, and for designing interventions to help people thrive. So what are some of the key takeaways for our listeners today?
Well, the biggest one is just becoming aware of the power of your own attributions. Pay attention to how you explain your successes and failures. Do those explanations empower you, or do they hold you back?
It's about becoming more mindful of those internal narratives we all have.
Exactly. And then think about the environments you're in. Are they fostering a growth mindset where effort is valued and help-seeking is seen as a strength?
Because those contexts can make a huge difference in how we perceive ourselves and our potential.
They really can. And finally, remember that these principles apply not just to ourselves, but to how we judge and interact with others. Are we giving people the benefit of the doubt? Are we assuming the best or the worst about their intentions?
These are questions worth asking ourselves.
Every single day.
Because ultimately, attribution theory is about understanding that our beliefs about why things happen have a profound impact on how we experience the world. So, as you go forth and learn and achieve and maybe even stumble along the way, keep those attributions in mind. They might just be the key to unlocking your full potential. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.